It's just a Hail Mary bet after another Hail Mary bet. As you're
And it
sitting
works
here,
every once in a while. I'm sorry, go ahead.
as you're sitting here telling me this, I can clearly see it's a gambling addiction. You obviously know that now. As you're doing it, are you aware that it's clearly being in action that you're addicted to, or are you convinced it's a money problem?
That's a tricky question because I think it was at that time, I think it's an issue, not necessarily a problem, right? Like, okay, I was just being stupid. But then you just continue to justify and make excuses and all of that. Like looking back on it, for sure, it was a problem then. But in the heat of the moment, it's you're just being an idiot. And next week, I'm not going to make that same mistake. And then I'd make the same mistake and continue to do it. And that's where it became really interesting because in Illinois, sports betting became legal. I forget what year, it's irrelevant, but I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to switch to using the sports betting apps because I don't have to worry about settling up every week. The downside on the apps, obviously, is I have to put the money in up front, but and I was so delusional that I wanted to stay with the bookie because I thought, if I use the apps, then I'm going to have to pay taxes. Wasn't a winning better. Like, why? I would never have to pay taxes. But I would run into the same issue. It would be the same exact thing. Not necessarily Sunday night, I need to chase to not have to pay the bookie. It's Sunday night, and I've been getting crushed on NFL football. Let me see if I can bet on, Aussie rules football or whatever, which I have. I was like a Sydney FC fan at some point, and it's the same cycle. The difference there is if I was up X amount of dollars, okay, I'd withdraw some and then I'd leave the winnings to play with and hopefully turn that into something else. But once those winnings were gone, and it usually happened pretty quickly, everything I just withdrew goes right back into the betting account. So then it just became I never really withdrew. I only deposited and I'd gamble until it was gone because mentally I knew overall I was down.
Those winnings are just an illusion. They were never actually in the palm of your hand. And I've lived in Sydney for 10 years now, and you've probably watched more Sydney FC games than I have, just to show you the level of how deep your addiction got.
Yeah, bailing, needing a Sydney FC and what was the team like the Wanderers or something? Does that sound
Western
right?
Sydney Wanderers.
Yeah, needing a bailout over 2.5 on those two teams when it's, 4 in the morning for me is usually not a good sign.
Yep, yep, I can relate to that. I feel we've glossed over a little bit there. I want to take you back. Tell me how it's developed from those 25 cents Texas Hold'em bets to you're talking 5,000, $6,000 up with your bookie. How has it gone from, I've heard you describe it as a competition problem into a compulsion?
I think it was partially a compulsion problem from the get-go. It just progressively gets worse. And I feel like that's a cliche way to describe it, but it really does. I mean, as I started making more money, I naturally started betting higher amounts. But when you know that you're down, you just think that you have to get out of this hole and dig yourself out of it. But naturally, you're just digging the hole deeper and deeper and deeper. So and the other, I think, issue that played into it, so I was in a role where my job was essentially 100% commission, so it was fast money. I'd get big paychecks, I'd get small paychecks, I'd get no paychecks. And when you're looking at, 25 and you have like a $15,000 paycheck, you're going to spend a little bit of that money. And I think back on, they talk about how pro athletes go broke so quickly. By no means was I making pro athlete money, but for a 25-year-old getting a check like that, that's, you feel like you're rich. So now I'm going to act or spend like I'm rich, which is so delusional because I didn't have that money. I was already in debt or paying off credit cards from, just being a 22-year-old idiot in my earlier days. So it just continues to get worse. And you feel like that's the only way out. And ultimately, I didn't anticipate getting like semi-emotional talking about this today, but it feels like it's the only option you have because nobody else knows about this problem. You carry this huge secret. And I know I'm kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but that's what like eats you the most. You don't
Not
know where
going
to
off
go.
on
You
a
don't know what to do.
You're not going off on a tangent at all. Tell me about it.